Welcome back to Sacred Success Salon, where today we are having conversations with awakened leaders impacting more people living on purpose and claiming prosperity, just like you. I'm your hostess, Anna Kowalska, and today I am delighted to, first of all, welcome you to my parents' home. I'm visiting New York, so this is my parents' setup.
Aww.
I know it's so different and it's elaborate. It's not my style. And you guys who've been watching interviews, I have this awesome background, and now you are in my parents' house. So welcome. To Long Island, New York. And welcome, I know, right, of all places. And welcome our amazing guest today, who I am really excited to open up a whole new spaces with you. So Beth Weinstein, welcome to the salon.
Thanks. Thank you so much for having me. And you're only like, I think 2 or 3 hours away from me right now.
I know, right? Amazing. And I'm pretty much stuck on Long Island the whole time because of my family, in a good way. I mean, stuck in a good way, stuck in a good way. But yeah, sometimes when I come here, I don't get to experience anything else but this little island, which is magical. So Beth, let me introduce you to our audience, just so they know who you are and why they really get to tune into what you're sharing. So you guys, Beth is a spiritual business coach. She helps current and aspiring business entrepreneurs, coaches, and spiritual leaders and healers align with purpose and grow their business so they can help more people create consistent income and have business they love, working online from anywhere on earth. I love it. I love it because that's exactly where we are right now, right? This whole entire conversation we're having in a salon is how do coaches, healers, empaths, gifted entrepreneurs right now step up and drop all the reasons why they haven't thus far and do their work right now because the world needs us.
Yes. I'm like, I don't know what it will take for people to see that the world needs healers, coaches, transformational support right now more than ever. I don't know about you, Anna, but I have like multiple coaches, multiple healers, NLP, leadership trainings. Yep. I'm in another like psychedelic integration type training. I mean, I was like, and my healers are booked up more than they ever have been. They used to take me in like a week or two, and now one of them's like 2 months out. I'm like, oh my God, they're so busy.
Yeah, because because the people are asking, right? It's like the way that we have been accessing life, right, and creating life is not working. So yeah, where's the healer? All of a sudden everybody's awakening. People who I speak to people who are like, no way, I'm not doing any of that woo-woo stuff, right? And they're like, no, let's go, we're doing it, come on, give me your contact. And the same thing with my clients, they're booking up right now because people are asking. So you work with people who are either already on the path or are just getting over all their blind spots and stepping in, right?
Yeah. So I help mostly people who are feeling that call to step into, their divine gifts, what they're really here to do, what they feel in their heart. Mostly people who want to be of service to the world, to help create transformation, healers, coaches, spiritual leaders, spiritual teachers. I work with a lot of people who are integrating psychedelics into their business because of, their own path of psychedelic healing, sacred plant medicines, and really people who are feeling like, okay, they've done a lifetime of their own healing journey. And of course the healing never ends, but it gets to a point where, especially if you look at the world around, it gets to this point where we want to be in service beyond ourselves, where we want to see larger scale change on the planet. And I believe that with all the energies of what's happening on the planet on a larger scale, people are feeling it in their bones. Like you can't deny your soul's calling for that long. It will literally eat you alive. That's what happened to me. That's what I see happen to a lot of people. So a lot of my clients come to me at that breaking point of like, I can't do this, job that doesn't align with who I am anymore. Or sometimes it's even their own business. Like maybe they had a different business, or, a lot of times it was mothers who took some time off, who are ready to make a difference in the world and want to come back. And they really feel that call. And people, especially the last couple of years, COVID or not, it's really gotten to that point of like, there's a lot of people waking up and realizing I'm only here once in this incarnation. How do I want to live? How do I want to contribute to the changes that we see on the planet and all the potential that we have right here in front of us? So that's those are my clients. It's people who, it's very common that I hear, I know I'm here to be a healer, but I don't know how to start, or I don't know what to do first. And they get scared, or they get confused, or they think, they must have 20,000 Instagram followers first, and that's not true. So I teach a very simple process that helps you get clients and reach more people and get yourself out there right away without having to have 1 million followers, or even without having to have a website, because those are all misconceptions and illusions that really don't matter. But what matters is there's people out there who are seeking, what I call the alternatives, which are not alternative anymore, because the old models haven't been working for them. It's like, after spending a lifetime, in anxiety or depression or self-doubt, or, lacking confidence and isolation, and then of course throw on the last year and a half, people are searching for the other ways, like, well, I haven't tried this, and here's, this sounds like it might help me, and voila, this is why we're seeing such a growth in, this industry and coaching and healing, and also in the whole psychedelic healing realm. It's all over the mainstream media now, that, it's now scientifically being proven that these actually do help facilitate change. So this is, and this, I believe, is what this whole salon is about like, how do we want to contribute and be the leaders of this new world?
Yeah, absolutely. Right on. And I love what you're saying, because what used to be taboo is really no longer taboo, right? So people who maybe, even 5 years ago are like, I can't talk about it, right? Like, no way, this will get me killed. Not really, but right?
Feeling,
Yes. All of a sudden it's like, no, there is more of the conversation, and it may just be still something you get to work through, but the world is more open. So what do you find still when people come to you right now, when the world is opening up to alternative, not being alternative, but being the solution, really, right? What is still the biggest thing that stops people from owning what they're here for and offering it, being of service? What's the thing right now that's showing up?
It's so funny that you mentioned the taboo, because that used to be part of it, right? And because I actually have a lot of clients who are working in, other taboo areas like sacred sexuality and tantra, and even death and end of life, and then, kind of like bridging these, shadow work. So that used to come up, but it's funny because even though now these things are becoming more and more accepted and mainstream, there is still that inner critic, that inner fear and that inner judgment of, what will people think? Who am I to do this? The number one thing I hear is feeling like an imposter.
Yeah.
And what I always remind my clients and everybody is that essentially this imposter syndrome runs really deep in our bones. It's not just you and new entrepreneurs, but it's something that we do actually have to put an effort into, retrain our minds and really come into a deep level of self-love to really understand that we are worthy and we are capable of helping other people exactly as you are right now. You can go spend the next 30 years getting 200 certifications, but you're probably still going to feel like an imposter on some level. Everybody's always heard about these big multi-million-dollar CEOs of large corporations saying that they feel like imposters. It's like, it doesn't ever really end. So all you can do is start to embody your worth and embody that knowing that you're here for a reason right now. You have your unique medicine, as I call it, to share with others. And I always use this analogy where, if you imagine 8 billion people on the planet, and there's this huge mountain we're all climbing as humans together in this experience, I might be right here, and my teachers might be here, and then some other people might be here, and maybe your clients are right here below you. And so if you're able to look down on that mountain and help the people who are, 500 feet or, 2,000 feet below you on the mountain, that's all you need. And you can have a huge, successful 6-figure business with just a tiny handful of clients. So it's not about, you have to be, Marianne Williamson in order to make a difference. It's about everybody has something to share and give to others. And you're helping people who are where you were at 1 year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, you know, the imposter syndrome, the feelings start to diminish and your confidence starts to build as you actually take actions. Like it has to be an embodied experience. It can't come from the head, and it can't come from just sitting and thinking and like meditating and hoping that it'll go away. It has to come through the feelings of speaking to potential clients and realizing like, wow, I could help her, you know, like I could, you know, and everybody knows this, you know, most people who are awakened to be healers and coaches, they know they have the gifts because they've already helped their friends, their family, people around them over the years. You know, it's one of those things where like, probably like you, like me, people just naturally came to me for business help. And it was one of the, and I had run multiple businesses before. And it's the same thing with, you know, anyone else who's desiring to start a business in this realm. It's, you just have to remember, you know, even if you're here to facilitate transformation in 10, 20, 30 people, that is a contribution to the domino effect of what we want to see on this planet.
I love it. So many great things you said, Beth, because you brought in the practical aspect of it. So I'm going to just recap what I heard, because as you were saying, I'm like, oh, that's good. That's good. The whole imposter syndrome, it doesn't go away. You get to make it go away by taking action and serving. Love it. That's what I heard.
Get to.
Yeah.
My favorite. Yes.
Yeah, totally. So you guys, just so you know, we just had a conversation about a get to, because it's a leadership language, and Beth and I both did this work, and she's like, you did this work. I'm like, yeah, we know it.
Oh, so good. Seriously, talk about transformation. Whoa.
So good. So, oh my God, I just got chills. I can have a whole conversation with you just about that. You know, it's so powerful. And, you know, I'm just going to say it for a second. When I first did it, I denied that there was any relation to spirituality in that work. And as deeper I go into it, I'm like, it's all about source. It's all about who we be in the world. I'm like, it's all you, right? It's all about, right?
I could tell you 10,000 stories how I was like, I don't know about this. I don't know about this.
Right?
And then I was like, wow, that was life-changing. Holy crap.
No so joke. Good. So good. Plug for leadership work.
Yes.
Yeah, so good. Yes. So I heard that we actually get to be in committed action in order for it may never go away, but it will not slow you down as you take action, right? So that's one. Two, what I heard was, and hold on, because now I'm going to lose it, but it was so good. You don't have to have a huge following. You don't have to be a Tony Robbins, right? Like Tony Robbins just did with what's his name? Grazioso. I forget his Dean. Right. Yeah, Dean just did this huge event. And my first instinct was like, oh, they're going to take over the market. But that was just an instinct, right? Because it's so not true. No. There are so many people who are looking for the unique thing that you watching right now have to offer, right? In a way that they could never do it. Maybe it's a one-on-one connection. Maybe it's a small group experience, right? Yeah. Somebody who will intimately get to know you, to guide you, instead of you being just part of a huge, you know, nothing wrong with that, but it's a different kind of experience, right?
Exactly.
So I love that. So owning that you don't have to be, you know, Tony Robbins to make an impact and make an amazing, be prosperous through that impact. So I love that you brought that too, because I think it gets lost so often. And what I'm hearing too is break it down. Like, how many clients will it take for you to have a business, right? Because it doesn't have to be 1,000.
No, that's the thing that's so funny. I mean, there's so many illusions and misconceptions, which of course I see that people see these images on social media or Instagram. They think, oh, so-and-so is successful and she has 200,000 followers. So that's the only way I could ever be successful. And that's totally not true. One of my most successful clients over the years, you know, she just wasn't afraid to put herself out there, but she only had like 600 Instagram followers. And I think like under 1,000 Facebook friends. She had zero email list, but it was very much in her way of being and showing up and her commitment. And also she really honed in on the one thing she was really passionate about, you know, which happened to be a very specific niche, like shadow work and embodiment, kind of, feminine coaching. And that's what I always say. You have to follow those golden nuggets of joy. And that's where the money is. It's like, I was really being called to talk about the psychedelic thing because it was such a huge part of my path since I was pretty young. And I was very like typical, like a lot of my clients, I was afraid. I was already a business coach. I was already spiritual. I wasn't as open about, how into astrology I was and the plant medicines. And then I just kept feeling it. Like, I need to be 100% authentic. I need to talk about this because I know if I feel this way about this connection between my path and, how I'm here to contribute to the world, there must be at least like 20 people out there who feel the way I do. I mean, I literally thought maybe there'll be like 20. And it ends up that there were like thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And I was like, oh, okay. So wait, I'm not the only one who feels this way and wants someone who's a coach who understands this path. And it's the same thing. It's like, I personally don't resonate with, let's say, Tony Robbins and or his like whatever coaching program, but I do resonate with someone else who gets like the depths of my spiritual path, and talks about energetics and the planet and weaves it into business, so that's where it does become like you showing up as your unique self with your unique medicine to share. And that's where, this whole imposter syndrome has to be worked out with, I always say like this path to entrepreneurship is the deepest journey into self-love, like on some level, it has to come back to you really owning that you have something unique that no other human on this entire planet has. Even if, and it's like, I always talk about this. I'm like, I collaborate with a million business coaches all the time. And I never feel a sense of competition because I'm like, you know what, even though we teach pretty much the same thing, like we're all slightly different and there's going to be a group that resonates and a group that resonates, and there's enough for everybody. Like I was just telling Anna, one of my healers is so booked up that I was like, oh my God, she needs to start training. She's an Akashic record reader and she's amazing, but she's so good that I'm like kind of skeptical of going to anyone else. But I was like, she really should just be training lots of people because we need to start cloning her, because she's going to be like 6 months out. And I'm like, I need a reading like tomorrow, that's where, and even like body workers and health and wellness, like my herbalist books up now, like way in advance. And if you have something happening in your body and you really need to get him, it's like, well, then what? So this is why there is enough to go around and there is enough to be like extremely successful, and that's, I do believe everybody on this spiritual path needs to be, financially supported, empowered, and successful in order to create larger scale change. Because when we get the money into the hands of people like us and everybody listening, like that's where, and I'm sure like you, I'm like, I direct my money into what I believe in and organizations and also reaching more people. And that's where there's this larger scale domino effect. So
I'm so aligned with you. And literally, I just had a conversation. We said it differently, but it so echoes what you just said. We get to be the channels for the money. Like I call it cleansing the money. We get to cleanse the monetary system, right?
Love that.
Yeah, because we are the light. So when it flows through our businesses and then we direct it into businesses that are light driven, light based, right? Soul based, like the money system gets cleansed of all this patriarchy and all this greed and all of the stuff that it's been like infused with, right? And how amazing would it be? Like money doesn't have to go away. It's going to exist in some way, shape or form because it's a form of exchange. If it's not called money, it'll be, feathers. I don't know, something, but it will be a form of exchange. So we still get to get over the same things and cleanse the whole system. So amazing.
Love that.
Yeah. Isn't it so great? Like,
I love that because you know what, it's interesting. Just the other day I was, there was something I was buying and I don't remember what it was, but I remember actually and I do this a lot because I actually used to own a sustainable clothing brand like years ago. And I consciously made a decision to buy it for a tiny bit more money from this one person directly versus going to like the Amazons of the world, because I knew, okay, I actually want to support her work directly,
Yeah.
And there's so many conscious choices that I'm now able to make where I'm like, okay, I have enough money to, again, like spread the energy to people and organizations that I believe in. And I do agree, this is the new world. And yeah, I always say that too. Like there might be a day money is like meaningless, but there's always going to be the energy exchange. There always was, there always will be. And I do believe in, the path of divine abundance is the heart path. It's like the more I just do what I love, do what feels right, follow it. And yes, quiet the fears and quiet all the monkey mind, which will always be there. It's part of us. We have to integrate it into ourselves. But the more I just, like trust in the path and take the inspired action and let go of all the BS that's holding me down, like the more it just becomes easy. Like, I used to think it was kind of like marketing BS. And I'm like, wait, actually it is pretty easy. Like when you're in that alignment though, and the hardest part of getting in alignment is you have to like get out of your head, get out of that stuff that's holding you back and blocking you. The world needs you too much right now. Like I keep saying it's mission over ego meaning like the part of us that's like, it's like, you have to just say like, okay, my mission for this planet is so much bigger than my fear, and that's what I, every day, I still have to do this on some level every day. Like,
I believe it. Yeah, absolutely. I love it. A mission over ego. Yeah, I love that. That's really good. You guys don't be surprised if this is the topic of our conversation. That's going to be the title. This is how we create.
I'm like, I assume what people know that ego mind is, but I'm like, maybe I should call it mission over monkey mind. I don't know.
Great. You tell me if you want to change it. I love it. You guys are part of the creative process here right now with us, which is exactly how we do it, right?
Love
so
it.
Amazing. So great. It really is so great because, and I got it from leadership work. I don't know if that's where yours came from. It's like, get over myself because there are people waiting for me to be served, period. So tell me this is the question that's coming in. So one of you guys watching right now has this question. When you were, because you've built businesses before, when the time came to switch, right? And you had to, for whatever reason, you were choosing to jump into this new venture now, right? And shift. And I love you, a business coach, but then, I get to actually bring in and I keep calling it woo-woo, just right. Yeah, bring in everything, right? Bring in all the woo-woo stuff. Yeah. Although one of our guests says it's woo-woo until it's what you do. It's woo-woo until it's what you do, because then it's not woo-woo anymore.
Yeah.
Great. So when you were at the moment of choice and you were like, okay, this is the path I get to take now. What did you take on? What mindset shift did you apply? What did you have to move through to actually go in this new direction?
Yeah, well, it's funny. So, I'd owned this clothing business for a while, and I accidentally fell into business coaching because people just kept asking me for help so much that, and then there are all the signs from the universe. Like people were telling me like, you should do this for a living. And I was like, I didn't even know what a business coach was. I'm like, what do you mean? People charge for this? And then one day I was like, well, I'm really getting like way too many people asking me for help, and they're actually getting no results because, a quick coffee date only does so much. So that's how I got my first business coaching client. I just said like, okay, next person who asks me, I'm going to tell them to pay money and that they have to commit for like X number of months. And that was the only way people were really getting like real results, was to have some skin in the game. So that's, and then I fell into business coaching, and then, I was always on a pretty deep spiritual path, most of my adult life, at least 20, 30 years. And, I talked about some things and I danced around certain subjects, especially around like my deep spiritual path with plant medicine, meditation, Buddhism, just so many different paths, like leadership, things like leadership, landmark, like self-development work. And what happened is that I was really, it was like those downloads, like my intuition just kept telling me that I needed to start talking about my own path on psychedelics and sacred plant medicines, and how much this actually contributed to me stepping into my purpose and actually like within my business as well. And I was afraid because it was super taboo at the time. This was a few years ago. And I was like, okay, it's illegal. What are people going to think? Some of my kind of acquaintances didn't even know I did this. Like some of my clients didn't know. I was like, okay, then there's going to be authorities at the door. And then my neighbors are going to think I'm a drug dealer, all the stories.
Yes.
I mean, I was seriously like, okay, do I consult an attorney? But I was just talking about it. I wasn't like selling anything or doing anything actually illegal. And I finally got to that point where it was that mission over ego where I was like, I know, because it was my own suffering. Because I was like, I wanted a coach who could understand what I was going through and how to integrate this deep work into my purpose and my business. And I was like, I was having a hard time finding a coach who understood it. And I was like, well, wait, if there's no one coaching on this, then maybe I need to serve the other handful of people that feel like I do. So I was doing it from my own place of, I know there must be someone feeling like me. And of course, there's lots of people who are feeling like me. And then I also knew that people who are on this path had a lot to bring to the world. Yeah. Because that path tends to wake up so much inside of you. People have like really profound awakenings. They're doing all this deep work, but then if they don't know how to bring their gifts to the world, which is what I started seeing around the medicine communities that I was in. I was like, people would do all this, but then they'd stay stuck. And the stuckness is, I was like, okay, you guys need help. That means there's a bunch of people out here who are not getting the proper support. Let me just see if people need help. And then I started talking about it. And I remember when I made the decision, it was like my soul was really, it was like eating at me. Like it was pounding me over the head with this. The day I made the decision, and not only that, but I made a decision to just like, okay, if I'm going to come out and talk about it, I'm going to go like big.
Yeah.
I just called my first summit Psychedelics, Sacred Medicines, and Purpose. I was like, I might as well not hide or dance around.
I love it. Yeah.
But the day I decided to do that, this is how the universe works. A good friend of mine who's a well-known musician named East Forest, he had that day had literally come out with an album called Music for Mushrooms. And it was the same week that they decriminalized psychedelics in Colorado for the first time in the United States. Like, and it was all within like a 1 week period. And I was like, okay,
what's going on, right?
The signs are here. And thankfully I was friends with, this musician, East Forest. I was like, oh, okay, well, if he can do that, and his was like literally an album that was designed for like taking mushrooms. And I was like, okay, if he can do that, I can do the summit. And then I had him on my summit. And then, again, it was like the divine alignment. And I've explained this to a lot of people. When you are in your full authenticity in that way, like, before it was maybe 97%, and then it was coming out to 100%. Yeah. Everything else in my life started aligning, like in so many ways. Like I manifested this home just out of the blue. I had fallen in love with someone. Money was just coming a lot easier. Things just, everything, it was like being in that path of divine purpose. And then everything else just followed a lot more clear, because then your mission is just, you have that clarity, like, okay, this is what I'm here for right now. I mean, who knows, it could always change, but you never know unless you try. Like that clarity, that knowing, the ease, the feeling of like, okay, this is my divine purpose, at least for now. Cause I always believe, who knows, it can change, but when you follow those nuggets that the universe, or spirit is just putting right in front of you, it's so easy. It's all you actually have to do. Of course, our mind just gets in the way of it. But it proved to be the most fulfilling thing I've probably ever done, because it was very challenging to do. But once I did, I was like, oh, like, why didn't I do this earlier? It was like liberation, like it's a liberation, because you're taking off the mask. You're not hiding who you are. And I always say to people, a lot of my clients, I'm like, look, guys, like the things that people used to think were weird are now all over the mainstream. Like, getting a tarot reading is not considered weird anymore. Astrology is not weird, it might not be accepted by everybody, but all of this, like people are starting to understand what energy healing is. Yes. Or at least they're curious, even if they don't understand it, and it's like, and even I used to hear this one a lot from clients, like, oh, no one I know is into this, or no one in my community, or, oh, I live in a small town where no one's open to this. I'm like, you don't realize how curious people really are, that they actually, even if they don't know about it, because remember, like, we all started there at some point. I remember the first energy healing session I got, I was like, how is this working? You know, it's like we all don't know at some point, and people are more and more open to it. So you know, you gotta, like, and I've never seen anyone get, like, totally, you know, you don't die by putting yourself out there, you know, like, yeah, maybe you get like one hater once in a while. I always say I get one hater every like 6 months, you know, but that's one out of like thousands. So
yeah, it's a small price to pay, right? Yeah, totally. I love what you just said. So I'm going to like pull it forward and highlight it as we wrap up. I love what you just said about clarity. Clarity came to you after you decided that this is the direction you're going to take. And I say this so often because I think it's so brilliant, right? Like, you don't just wake up one morning and you clear and you take steps and everything just happens magically. You have to decide first, right? And then things will get easy. But tell me if this is not true for you. Do you ever have days or moments when you're like, am I doing the right thing? Like, is this?
Yes. Every time I'm like, you know, I book a session with my Akashic record like 2 or 3 times a year, you know, and I'm like, by the way, am I like, you know, really in alignment with my business? I mean, I know I am because I feel it, but I always check in because
because it's human, right? It's human.
Days where, I mean, even the other day I was like, maybe I should become a therapist. Like I always meant to be, you know, like I intended to be a therapist when I was in college. That was my path, you know, and I'm like, oh, maybe it'd just be easier to just like, you know, I come up with I mean, I've made jokes about everything. I'm like, well, I would love to be a farmer, but that actually sounds a lot harder. You know, like I get in those ruts where I'm like, yeah, but I mean, that's normal. But then again, it's like the second a client has something, or the second I write an email and someone says like, wow, your email really helped me. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. I forgot that we're here for, it's more than just us, you know, it's not about us. It's about like, I really, and I know you believe this, I'm pretty sure a lot of people listening, it's like, you can't deny we're here on this planet right now at this crazy pivotal time in human history for an important reason. And it's like, how do you want to live it? You know, as we know, like life could be over in a second. And it's, you know, it's like, how do I want to contribute? Because my reality is not just about like me and my drama all the time and like, you know, staying stuck in my crap so that I'm like unhappy or miserable. It's like, no, you know, there's so much more beyond that.
Yeah, I love it. It goes back to mission over ego, right? It goes back to that. And we can call it mission over monkey mind. It's up to you. I'll give you the creative right over that one. But it comes back to that, right? Like just get over whatever is happening for you and just be of service to the world. And I'm so with you. The way I talk about it is at some point you raised your soul raised its hand, whatever it looks like, and said, I'm going to come and be a human at this time when we are going through this sped up, tremendous evolutionary jump, right? And I will some way contribute. So do you want to be a silent contributor because you're contributing in some way and contributing in a way that you have no control over because you're not being conscious of it? Or will you contribute in a way that you wake up every day, ask yourself the hard questions, do the things, right? Do the things, get through I should have just been a teacher because that was my path. I was going to be a teacher. I was going to be a psychologist and it was on the path into school. And I'm like, this is just not feeling right. So, right. And I'm like, and I thank my lucky stars, especially on the days, right?
Yeah, same here. I'm like, oh, I actually, once in a while I have a nightmare about like going back to corporate and I'm like, like you know, those days I'm so grateful, even though probably like everybody, I mean, this is normal. I'm friends with entrepreneurs that are making billions and they go through it. Where, you know, yes, there's days where I was crying on my living room floor, like asking, what the F am I doing? But for the most part, like, especially now, you know, get over a few of the humps of like initially putting yourself out there and learning all the foundational pieces to a business. Once that's in play, it's like, I mean, there's days where I actually, like even yesterday, I was like, did I work today? I actually had to ask myself, and I'm like, I'm about to launch a new program. And I'm like, wait, did I do anything? And because I don't even think of it as work anymore.
Right.
Like, It actually freaks me out sometimes. I'm like, wait, I just had a client with, my group client call. And I'm like, wait, it never feels like work. I'm like, it feels amazing. It feels like fun. And it's just, there's days where I'm like in disbelief. I'm like, oh, I'm getting paid like way more than I ever did in corporate to just help people and transform lives and actually enjoy every bit of it. Except I don't enjoy paying taxes.
We get to have a global shift around that, right? We get to have a global shift around that.
No one likes paying taxes. I do like paying because I can pay without like freaking out like I did, when I was 22 maybe, but
I get it. I get it. The way I see it is I'm not aligned with where the money is going. So
that's part of the issue there. I'm like,
yeah, totally. I love it. Beth, oh my gosh, it was such a delight to have you in the salon. So I know, the places we go, this is why, like I told you before we click the record, I don't know where it's going to go. We're just going to go.
Yeah,
it's going to be fun. So I know you have a gift for our audience, a way for you to get more from Beth and get into her world. So there is a button below this video. What can they expect below the button?
Yeah, so it's my free gift that's all about 3 easy ways to start getting clients and grow your coaching or healing or other kind of spiritually based business. These are super simple steps that cost no money, especially if you're just starting out, or maybe you've started, but you're not getting any results. These are little shifts and little tweaks that you can do in your business to get some momentum. I have had people make $30,000 just with these techniques. They're the initial steps that I teach that, and you don't even, I always say, look, like the first couple of years of your business, you don't need to invest money into it. So don't put up a website. Don't go buying 1 million Instagram followers, please. Just super simple steps that will help start that shift in the, getting past your imposter syndrome and start getting the clarity and attract people in. So that's a free gift, and it's video and PDF, and and you can just reach out if you have any questions. Of course, I love hearing from people.
So great. So awesome. So make sure you claim the gift, the button right below this video, get the 3 steps. I'm excited about them. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for bringing your wisdom. And I just had so much fun in our conversation. So thank you, Beth.
Thank you so much. I had such a good time as well. Thank you for having me here.
Awesome. And you guys will see you at the next conversation. Bye for now.